I cannot help asking those who have caused this situation, do you realize now what you've done?
What if I told you that perhaps the biggest news story of the year so far has been completely ignored, or better put, covered up by the mainstream media? No doubt our audience wouldn't be totally surprised by that revelation. However, I think the average person on the street would be totally shocked to find out that Russian President Vladimir Putin believes a war between Russia and the United States and its NATO allies is imminent. Diplomatic relations have deteriorated, and NATO's deployment of anti-missile systems in Europe is a direct violation of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the INF, between Russia and the United States. And that's because these anti-missile systems that NATO is putting on Russia's borders can easily and quickly be repurposed or converted to facilities capable of firing short and mid-range missiles. In a meeting with foreign press just last month, Vladimir Putin left no one in any doubt that the world is heading down a course which could lead to a nuclear war.
We know year by year what's going to happen, and they know we know. It's only you that they tell these fables, and you buy it and spread it to the citizens of your countries. Your people do not feel a sense of the impending danger. This is what worries me. How do you not understand that the world is being pulled in an irreversible direction? That is the problem. But they pretend like nothing's going on. I don't even know how to get through to you people anymore.
Now, this was probably one of the most important political speeches since the run-up to World War II. And most historians agree that we are seeing a lot of parallels right now to the start of World War I and World War II. Russia says the U.S. is making it more difficult for them to avoid the outbreak of large-scale conflicts. Vladimir Putin just signed a document declaring NATO a threat to their national security. He also says we are on the brink of war, and the fact that you are not hearing about any of this on the mainstream news shows just how controlled the media is. We are witnessing one of the most unstable times in human history. And we're joined now by former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury under Ronald Reagan, Paul Craig Roberts, the father of Reaganomics. And I'm glad you're with us this evening because it looks like Russia is no longer playing games. The United States has them basically backed up into a corner. And I wanted to get your take on Vladimir Putin's speech last month, where he warned about the possibility of a nuclear exchange with the United States, and also get your take on why you think the mainstream media just remains silent on this story. I think it's a big story, yet nobody's talking about it. Why?
Well, the West doesn't have a media, you know that.
Yeah.
They have in the United States, there's 6 big companies own 90% of the media. And basically, it's not allowed to function as a media. So you don't get any news. You just get the propaganda from Washington and from the corporations. That's all you get from the American media. And, you know, we have this former German editor who wrote the book. He said that he was on the CIA's payroll, and so was every significant journalist in Europe. So,
and this goes all the way back to the days of Operation Mockingbird. I mean, you know, the CIA pretty much infiltrated, and other intelligence organizations as well. They infiltrated our media from the very get-go.
That's right. But of course, now it's worse because the media in the United States is concentrated. It's now in 6 hands.
Yeah.
So that makes it even easier to control. So what Putin was, he was speaking to journalists, I think not just Americans, but all of Europe.
Yep.
And what he was telling them was that they, by repeating propaganda about Russia and accusations against Russia, they were enabling the United States and NATO to keep putting military-type pressures on Russia. And that at some point, these pressures would no longer be tolerable by Russia. They simply won't accept them. I think particularly he means the missiles in Poland and Romania, because these missiles can be put there as ABMs, anti-ballistic missiles, but they can be very easily changed into strategic nuclear attack missiles.
So you think this is a violation of nuclear arms treaty back to your day when Ronald Reagan signed the nuclear arms treaty? It was the IMF treaty. And because these aren't just anti-nuclear missile systems, like you said, they could be converted almost overnight into ballistic missiles. We're talking short range and medium range missiles. Am I right?
That's right. If you convert them into nuclear attack missiles, then Russia's deterrent is no good, because within 5 minutes they would have hit all the targets in Russia. So he's made it kind of clear that he's not going to accept that. And he has said over and over, I keep telling the Americans and the Europeans, and they don't hear. They don't hear. And he was pointing out to the journalists that because they just repeat propaganda and never tell the truth about anything, that this is why the people in Washington can be so reckless and take so many reckless steps that are serious strategic threats to Russia. And if there was a news media reporting facts rather than propaganda, then the United States would not be able to behave in such an aggressive and reckless way, and therefore the prospect of a war would be much smaller. He says repeatedly that Russia doesn't want war, he doesn't intend war, but that the Washington and NATO are behaving in such a reckless, aggressive fashion that he has to expect that they intend war, because when all you hear all day long is lies about yourself and your country, you assume you're being set up.
Well, and he calls the United States the empire of chaos. I've heard him say that. I think the big wake-up call for Putin was back in 2013 with the false flag chemical attack in Syria that killed hundreds of innocent civilians, women and children included. And the United States was quick to blame Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president.
There is breaking news now from the war in Syria, and this could be significant. Reports that chemical weapons have been used in that conflict.
These are some of the scenes now circulating on the internet of distressed children apparently suffering the after effects of a chemical attack. Some of the video footage is too distressing to broadcast, and it is unverified. But there are scores of dead, among them very young children.
Good afternoon, everybody. 10 days ago,